Hey, what's up, gang? We are back at Colonial Williamsburg today because there was so much stuff that we didn't get done yesterday, and we bought the bounce tickets that allow us to go to that Christmas town and to Colonial Williamsburg for 3 days. So we're gonna hit this morning, and then some of the kids and Amanda are gonna go back to Christmas town. But we're gonna go try and check out a lot of the blacksmiths and stuff that were closed on Monday. Today is Tuesday. So a lot of stuff is closed on Monday here at Williamsburg, so keep that in mind when you're coming here. But we're gonna go check out the stuff that we didn't get to check out yesterday, which would probably include the blacksmith, some leather making, and all that fancy stuff. So let's go check out Colonial Williamsburg a second time. All right, so our first tradesman is the engraver. That's what we're checking out today.
So where we're going to start is with a drawing, and actually that's kind of what I'm working on today. Is I'm doing a reproduction of this particular print and plate. So I've got a large piece of copper here. I'm still working on finishing up the drawing of that. Once the drawing gets complete, then we can start the actual carving. And what we're going to be cutting with are tools called burins. Okay, so this is a burin, very sharp piece of steel there, goes in the palm of the hand. We'll be pushing that tool through to carve that design. So anywhere that's cut is going to hold ink, and that will translate in the actual print.
Oh, so you cut it and then you put ink on it?
Yeah, so we'll cut it. It'll all the rest of the drawing will be washed off, and it'll look similar to the way these are. It'll get filled with ink, but the top of the plate gets buffed clean. Paper goes over it. It goes through a rolling press, looks like that. And it'll mash it down into those cuts to retrieve the ink, and if we did it right, it'll look like that.
So how long would it take to do this whole piece?
Yeah,
that's kind of big.
Yeah, it's the buildings are more of the intimidation just because of the precision on them.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of looking right now. It's probably going to be about 40 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah. If we can get it under 40, we'll be doing pretty good.
I noticed that you had to put it on backwards. Is there a reason for that?
Right. So when we go to print this will be again flooded with ink, and the paper's going to go over it. So you can kind of imagine that peeling away. You're going to get a mirror image of it. Okay. So sometimes it's critical, sometimes not so much. A lot of times we'll see portraits where they've gone from a painting to an engraving, and they sit opposite each other because they've copied it directly to the plate.
Alright, so something else that wasn't open up yesterday was this area here behind the Chowning's Tavern on the main street. Essentially, you get all these cool little foods. It's like a spot where you can order stuff from this bar here, where they're cooking everything outside, all fancy. You just make your order there, and then you come over here and you sit down and eat. Not bad pricing either for being here at Williamsburg. I know if you get out to the restaurants, obviously it would be slightly equivalent, but you know, if you're here all day and you're hungry and you want a snack, just come down to the Chowning's Garden Fair behind the Chowning's Tavern, so you don't have to have any type of fancy reservation or anything. Just hop in here and grab something to eat. All right, so if you want to get off the main road like we were doing yesterday, we're on just off Nicholson Street. So one of the tradesmen, or women, is the brickyard, which would obviously be very important if you want to, I don't know, build a town out of bricks. So let's go check out what's in the brickyard. All right, we got the kiln that they would fire all the bricks in. A massive amount of wood out here to keep the kiln going. Looks like they probably do some other stuff around here. Looks like maybe there's some type of area over there where they do some carpentry or something. But we're more focused on the bricks.
So this tunnel goes all the way through. It's very dark and ominous in there right now, but the other side there's another door like this propped up that's causing the light to not filter at all. And so this goes 14 feet this way, as do the rest of them, back behind me through the other side. And so what we do is the very first day of the kiln, there are small campfire-esque fires. We start just in the mouth right here, no doors on, We do them all down these 6, the same on the back 6. The first day we're trying to maintain those fires, make them a little bit stronger so they can withstand the wind and whatnot. There's no barrier here per se for the wind. And so the first day, small fires, building it up. The first day into the first night, we're trying to make those fires on either end meet in the middle. And from then on, we're basically bolstering a bed of coals to build throughout those next few days. Day 2 is then building up that bed of coals. Instead of using kindling, which is behind you over here, we use cordwood, the bigger chunks of wood in front of me right here. We used to have quite a bit of this, now we have very little. And we use that to basically snake a line through the entire structure. So we throw in from this side, go to the back, and throw the other side to make a line of cordwood, which burns down a bit slower but creates a much denser bed of coals. And day 3 then, we're watching it, seeing how it's doing. The previous days have been not about so much getting it super hot, but getting any steam that's left in the brick, any water vapor out of the brick. So we should be seeing steam day 1 and day 2. By day 3, no more steam, ideally. And then day 3, at 3 p.m., we put these doors up. The first thing that happens then is because it's being suddenly restricted of oxygen, it actually cools down a little bit, minutely. And then from then on, instead of soaking it whenever it looks like it needs wood, we stoke on the hour every hour. And then by day 4 in the morning when they came in, they noticed it wasn't really getting as hot as we would have liked. And that was just primarily because if you look at the store here, it's all clammed up of course now, but we have this all covered up because initially there was a bit of gap between the bottom of the door and the ground, but not enough for enough airflow to allow that heat to really get up hotter. So they actually dug out a little bit underneath the door to increase that airflow. And after that, it was pulling enough that it needed to bring the temperature up hotter. When we look in these tunnels, as we're getting from day 4 to day 5, those bricks in there that are part of the tunnel are starting to glow because they're getting superheated. They're glowing a yellowish orange color. And when we see that being sustained, we need to check the top as well, because as the kiln fires, you can't really tell from our vantage point, but the top of the kiln looks like this right now, as a slump. And we want that to happen because that means the bricks that are part of the kiln are shrinking, they're settling, taking up less space, and that's being reflected by the bricks that are sitting on top of them, and then the slump is completed.
All right, so I thought the kiln was more or less an oven you put everything in, but in all reality, they build up the kiln with bricks, as you heard, and then they fire the whole thing, and then they rip it all back down, and they use all the bricks that were fired to go out. Pretty neat. All right, we're gonna do the leather bindery and printing area. So we've got the printing press behind us. The bindery is actually full, so we're gonna check out the shoemaker first.
Making that common range of sizes with a real sweet spot around 9, 9.5. So, and then skew large is the constant admonishment because it's easier to fit. If you're going to fit them wrong, it's easier to fit wrong. You know, smash a small foot into a big foot into a small shoe, that doesn't work.
Especially not marching or walking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say overall, the quality of the shoes that were being made in the 18th century probably exceeds what's available in the modern world today, just because of the techniques that go into them. Today, if you want shoes made using these same techniques, you're probably looking at laying down thousands of dollars. In the 18th century, it's just the way we know how to make shoes.
How would they fasten that?
You would have a buckle. And the buckle is not actually a part of your shoe. The buckle is a separate purchase.
That would slide out.
And so the expectation when a pair of shoes is issued to a soldier is that he already has something that he wore into the army. And you can have as many pairs of buckles or as many pairs of shoes as you want to have, and the buckles are interchangeable. So even if I only have one pair of shoes, I'm going to a fancy party, well, I'll black up, thank you. I'll black up my shoes, I'll polish up my silver buckles and put them on instead of the brass ones I'm wearing here at work.
So they would have formal buckles then?
Yeah, you can actually get buckles that have big stones so that when you go to a ball where they're lighting up candles, your shoe buckles will sparkle. Well, this is why we see weird things like sequins on men's clothing and such, is because when you're lighting by candlelight, if you wore what we tend to think of today as formal dark colors, you're going to disappear into the shadows. Nobody's going to see you unless you smile.
How long would it take to make a pair of shoes?
A good shoemaker, somebody who's experienced, is probably going to be able to turn out a pair of common shoes like the pair here on the your right in about 10 or 12 hours of work. If you're not able to make that pair of shoes in about that amount of time, you're going to have a real hard time making a living because you're going to have to charge so much for them that the market isn't going to bear it. Hello there.
So you said that something like this would be worth thousands
Today, because
So-
we're talking about specialized labor, and that's really what we gain. The mechanization and adhesives and things, that makes it much, much faster to make our shoes. We can get shoes way, way cheaper because they're made way, way faster, but we're not going to get the same kind of quality that, because of the way in the 18th century, that was just how they knew how to make shoes.
Well, how much would these shoes be in comparison back in the day?
To go purchase a pair, it's probably comparable to what you pay today for a good pair of shoes. So I'm not talking about, flip-flops or knockoff Crocs in a department store. I'm talking about, go out and buy a name brand work boot or a name brand, buy Wolverine or a Red Wing or something like that. It's probably pretty comparable. You're probably going to spend somewhere around a day's wages. Probably not a whole lot more than that there. And that would probably be true of our 18th century counterparts too. The price range is going to vary, but so do wages.
And then how long would they last?
That is a tough question to answer because there's so many variables involved. How often do you wear them? How many pairs of shoes do you have? So are you rotating them? What kind of surfaces are you on? In the Army, they are wearing out at a rate of about every 4 months, every 3 months.
That's about right.
Well, it's comparable to what we're told by kids that are coming back and saying, yeah, I went through about 4 pairs of boots when I was in Afghanistan. It's pretty consistent.
All right, I did not know so much went into making shoes, but now we're gonna go to a whole different trade that's not wearing leather, but with very hard substances called metal. We're gonna hang out with the blacksmith.
On a tomahawk, an axe similar to this one here. We've been working on a pretty wide variety of products lately, so I've been working on parts of a plow. Another smith has been working on some building hardware. Another smith has been working on some vehicle hardware. So what we're working on changes based on the needs of other people in town. The plow I'm working on is going to be used by our farmer to till the field. The tomahawk he's making is going to be used by one of our historic programs. I'm not sure which. He's also been working on parts of a wagon that's going to be used around town. So our work changes day to day just based on needs. But historically, you're going to see a lot of the same sorts of work done here, just for a different client. So historically, the shop was part of an armory, meaning that muskets and swords and bayonets and pistols are fixed here. Axes were made for soldiers to use, spades and shovels were made for soldiers to use. But because we're working for a museum today, not so much of that gun repair going on. They haven't been using the muskets as clubs and spears and whatever else a soldier can come up with. So instead we're making more things that civilians would need in the 18th century. However, there, although we're using the same tooling, same techniques, making copies of 18th century objects, there is a significant difference. Because in the 18th century, if you wanted an axe for splitting firewood, if you wanted hinges for a door, you would probably purchase that from one of the stores in town, imported from England. For much the same reason that I would guess that most of y'all are wearing shoes that were not made in your community, you're looking at imported goods in the 18th century because, well, labor is cheaper elsewhere. And labor is more specialized. The cost of production is lower. It's more efficient. So there were locksmiths in England who just made locks. There weren't any in Williamsburg. Although there were gunsmiths in Williamsburg, there are not very many of them. If you want to arm, say, a military, you want thousands of firearms built in the same pattern. The local gunsmiths are making hunting weapons that are all going to be different because every hunter has different requirements and probably wants different embellishments on the weapon to show off to their friends.
So what's the difference between tin and the blacksmith over there?
So the blacksmith is working with iron and steel, and what they're doing is forging their material. So they're heating it up and then striking it, basically squishing it into the shapes they want, kind of like a sculptor would work. What I'm working with is a sheet metal that is iron, but it has a coating of tin on the outside of it. So think of this metal like an M&M. The iron is like the chocolate, and the tin is a candy coating that's there to help prevent rust. But my work begins with patterns. So I start with a sheet just like this, and I'll trace out patterns and shapes. Well, I cut it out and then I use mallets to shape it. So I don't even have to use a big metal hammer. I'm just using a wooden mallet or my hand strength. And my tools are kind of like miniature anvils, and I can take them out and move them around as I need to. So I'm shaping the metal cold, I'm forming it around as quickly as I can just because it's forming pretty fast without having to change that thickness and prepare the material. And then the only time I use any heat is for soldering, which is what I'm doing now. So the same soldering that you might use for electronics today is the same kind of soldering that I'm doing in the 18th century and that they were even doing as far back as the ancient Greeks and Egyptians.
But it was more for like seams and stuff than it is for like holding electronics together.
Exactly, yeah. So, but it's the same process. So anywhere where you see parts that are attached or around the bottom to seal it, or the seam that goes up the back of a cup, that's all soldered together. Sure.
So the sheet metal comes from where?
Great Britain.
Great Britain.
Prior to the Revolutionary War, I could very confidently tell you it was British tin coming out of southern Wales. They're mining the tin in Devon and Cornwall, and they're doing the tin plating in Wales, and then shipping the sheets over to us. But our shop has a very unique purpose. We were never a private business. We were set up on this exact location for 2 years as part of the public armory. So everything that we were manufacturing is going out to soldiers and sailors in Virginia. So once we're actively shooting at Great Britain, they don't send us stuff like materials that we need or equipment that we need for our soldiers. So our sheet metal is going to be coming in via the French and the Dutch, but it's possible they are still purchasing British tin and then just selling it to us through other routes to get it here.
And then because you're paying for the material, that's what goes into the cost of it.
Yep. So for example, in a merchant's invoice that I found from 1773, they have struck lanterns listed that were ordered from Glasgow, actually from Scotland. And it's being listed at 2 shillings for the struck lantern. Right next to it in the list is a horn lantern listed at 2 shillings 6 pence. So it's another 6 pence more to get that horn in there. But you're going to get more light out of it. It's probably going to last a fairly long time. And it's a lot cheaper too than glass, which is an imported material that's coming over from Great Britain. But it's also a lot more fragile. And for our shop, with its military purpose, we see a lot more horn being brought over here to be made into ship's lanterns. So aboard a naval vessel where it could get really rough during storms, during battles, just at sea in general, that's going to last a lot longer than a glass lantern would. And they use them for signaling, so they run them up into the rigging, so they're getting banged around a lot there.
This is what I wanted yesterday. Get some fancy baked goods. Let's go check out the bakery. All right. Ooh, we got different cookies. Oh, we gotta get the best cookie, the oatmeal raisin cookie. Let's get a ginger cookie. And classic chocolate chip. And peanut butter. All right. So we got all the cookies except sugar. Gage got a sugar cookie. So we're gonna save the oatmeal one for later, for the last. We'll start with, let's go with ginger. It's usually pretty mid, but we'll go ahead and try it.
Can I try some?
Yep, you can try it.
Yay! You wanna try some brownie?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
It's actually really good. I lied, this is not mid.
Okay, the rest of the dish is for later then.
Ginger cookie. Here.
Tastes like gingerbread.
Yeah. No, ginger, like a ginger snap. But there's no snap, it's soft.
That's pretty good.
All right, let's do chocolate chip. Also another mid cookie, but we'll check it out.
Chocolate chip's like the best cookie. I don't know what you're talking about.
Nope. I saved the best for last.
Oatmeal raisin cookie is the best actually.
Okay, none of these cookies are mid. They're actually all good. We're getting down the list of awesome cookies now. We're entering awesome cookie land with the peanut butter cookie. Amanda's stealing all the chocolate chip.
Too bad I can't have the peanut butter one.
Really good. I wish it were a bit softer, but it's still really good.
I don't know what
Yeah, I don't want that one.
I'll try some.
That tastes like coffee.
I have saved the best cookie for last. The oatmeal raisin cookie.
The best cookie.
No, I don't taste coffee in it. All right, here we go. Oatmeal raisin cookie. It's soft, it's a chewy one. I don't like the hard ones, so I'm kind of happy about that. Nope.
It's gonna be the best.
And this one's the mid one.
Definitely the best cookie out of all of them.
Which one is it?
Oatmeal raisin.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you want some of this?
No, I'm good. I have a pouch of
All right, I'll say all the cookies were good. None of them were actually mid, but this one blows all the rest of them away with its deliciousness. Here you go.
Yay!
Cerulean here on Wyntham's Cerulean 40th, which has sulfur,
like somebody that mixes
polychloride, and quicksilver. Topically. Being derivatives today, hydrocodone, morphine, oxycodone. So we do have those.
Yeah, strong, right? Yeah.
Burns your throat.
They said it's like icy hot.
This is
They mix it with that
elderberry,
olive
which
oil,
we're using
and you put that on for like
influenza.
pain and stuff.
Product on the market today called Sambucol, which they tout as an antiviral.
Right.
All right, that was the apothecary, but let's
Smells
see.
like black powder.
Yeah, we can smell some black powder. Let's check out this gunsmith.
Well, we do all the smith work in gunsmithing. Here we hammer all the black metal pieces. Also cast our brass and silver. And all the block parts, screws, sights, triggers, and gun barrels all start on the anvil. That's the largest thing we hammer out here. That's the steps in making the hole in a gun barrel. It wasn't possible to drill through that, so you take a flat bar and weld it into a tube.
Yeah, so they were all just flat bore then, and there was no.
The rifling is the only style likely to be made here in the 18th century.
Oh really? You had rifling?
Rifling is the final step. Yeah, rifles have been around 300 years prior to the Revolution. It's just an option most people didn't need in a gun.
Oh, didn't that would cost more? Or?
No, it's because rifles are for hunting big game, not for military use because they're slower to load than muskets.
Oh.
Most people in Europe can't hunt big game. It's a hanging offense in England to hunt on public land or your own land if it's not worth enough. In America, game is public property, but 94% of people living here are farmers. Farmers need a gun that's more versatile than a rifle. So a shotgun is what is the highest demand style.
And you would make shotguns as well here then?
No, well you could, but they're much cheaper if they're imported from England.
That seems to be the going. Everything's cheaper
if
from
it's imported
England.
from England, because a rifle is a lower demand style. About the only way to get one is to have it made here.
So that would be kind of expensive then. To have a rifle
Well,
made?
it costs more, yes, because it's made here. Because there's a scarcity of skilled labor in America. American labor's 2/3 higher than English labor, so the average price of a rifle or typical price is going to be £4 Virginia current money. You can buy an imported fowling gun for £1. So it's more expensive, but it's almost always the poorest people who are buying rifles. Because if you're living on the frontier where land's available to you, the only way to make cash money is the deerskin trade. So rifles are generally in the hands of professional hunters.
And how long would it take to make a rifle?
Back then, we don't know. Labor's cheap and nobody's paid by the hour, so nobody's logging hours. But for us today in here, we figure a typical rifle's about 400 hours.
Ooh, it's a lot.
Yeah, but a lot of that has to do with because we do it in a museum. We start and stop all day and talk to a lot of people while we're working.
Oh, versus someone would just be here all day doing their thing.
Dark, 6 days a week. So.
Yep. Well, because you don't work on Sunday, right?
Right, exactly. Sunday's your day off.
Yep.
Mantelpieces. We'll make things like the cupboard that you see here. This one's a standing corner cupboard, which is actually what that's going to become when it grows up.
Looks like it's
We'll do hanging cupboards. We can do shelves. So I can sort of storage solutions for people.
So a door and a window are considered finishing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's also something that in a regular old house that belongs to the average Virginian who is probably either a farmer or farming adjacent has a house about the size of our building here, and they have doors like the two that you see back here, which are simply boards that are either straight or mostly straight. You can fit them together, nail it all together. It's a perfectly good door, it'll do. But if you're a wealthy person, you need to show off that you're a wealthy person. So you start to go for doors like these ones, which are paneled together, made with a frame and panel with mortise and tenon construction. That requires extra skills, extra tools, and so it's going to be more limited to a wealthy client. When it comes to things like windows, most people in Virginia, when they say, I have a window, they have an opening in their wall with a shutter that closes over it. And there's nothing in that window to really prevent bugs or the weather from coming through. To be able to afford glass, like you see here, that puts you in about the wealthiest 2 to 5% of Virginians. You need to be exorbitantly wealthy to get this. And so joiners who do this work to make the sash, do the glazing, putting the glass in, we're looking at some extremely wealthy people. So when we talk about people like Washington, he's not just in the top 1% wealthiest Virginians, he's in the top 0.01 wealthiest percent of Virginians.
Wow, that is crazy to know that to get glass back in the day, you had to be like essentially Elon Musk and all of those guys and the Jeff Bezos and stuff of the world to have glass in your windows. Insane. Alright, so unfortunately the cheese factory, which is in the modern area, is just crammed full of people. So I didn't want to get too much video, but they had so many cheeses in there. And we just got a cheese plate called the European plate. Essentially it has like a goat cheese, a Gouda, and what was the other one? Something from...
Holland.
Something from like a Holland. So it comes with this little... Comes with all these little cheeses here. We get 3 cheeses. We got some salami, and everybody's gonna. We had her slice it to where everybody can have 1 cheese and everything else. And then we got some crackers too. So we're just gonna try these and see how they are. All right. Unfortunately, I don't know which cheese is which, but we're gonna try these. I like that one. That's really. Ooh, it's really strong. It like has an aftertaste of strength, like it's not even just regular. Let's see what it tastes like with salami. This one feels like a softer cheese. So with the cheese plates here, what you do is you pick what you want. You can actually have whatever cheese you want, but we just went with like what's called the European plate. I think this one's the goat cheese.
The aftertaste. Feels like
I know.
Art.
The aftertastes are really strong on the cheese. They're not even messing around. So these are not your normal like cheddars and Swisses and stuff like that. These are like different cheeses from around the world, guys. It's really good. So pretty much any cheese you can think of they had in there, right, babe?
I like cheese.
So come check it out. You get a little plate. It's $29 a pound. It doesn't sound like a lot, but we're able to split it with like 6 people with some salami and stuff. And it worked out just fine. All right, that's it for us today. So while yesterday we got to learn about the governor's palace and a little bit about the politics going on here during the early revolutionary days, today we got to learn about the merchants and how all of the trade worked. And one of the biggest takeaways that was said in pretty much every shop was that basically, as long as we were when we were trading with England, that things were cheaper if you bought them out of England. The big takeaway was that they had a lot of labor and a lot of people over in England that was able to ship stuff over here a lot cheaper than it would be to make here, because there was not the skilled hands to do so. And they were doing almost like a assembly line over there when it came to like weapons and lanterns and all that fun stuff. So that made it a lot cheaper to just have stuff shipped in. Obviously, once the once the revolution started, we had to start making our own stuff, and things got real expensive. But sometimes they would just trade with the Spanish or with France or whatever, and in some cases, those countries were buying it from England and then just shipping it over here. Same kind of stuff we do nowadays has always been done. But just really neat to see a lot of the people actually working on the things they do here, and they actually use that stuff here to help keep the restorations up for Williamsburg. So if you're ever in Williamsburg area and you want to come hang out and learn about some of the history of the area, like I said, this place was built back in like 1699, burned down a couple times, and was always rebuilt. And now they have it restored and in like more of a museum capacity for everybody to come hang out and learn. So it was really a nice learning experience. Anyways, guys, thank you very much. Please hit the like, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.